All right guys, I got my guy Stetson in the chair. We're gonna be doing a burst fade crop on top. You can see the back is already rounded, so we're gonna just clean it up. He wants it a little neater at the bottom, so we're probably gonna clipper the bottom and round it in the back. A little burst fade on the sides. But before we get into the video, let's go to the clipper wall and see what we're gonna use. All right guys, so the last video we used the red Low Pro FX. Let's try to switch it up today. I think I'm gonna go with an FX. I've used these. Let's go ahead and try one of the newest additions, the Camo FX. And guys, I did add the black rubber grips if you didn't see it, but I'll get the trimmer off. I only got one hand. Let's get to the video. All right guys, so the first thing I'm gonna do is come in with the number 3. This is the Babyliss Premium number 3 on the Camo FX. And we're just gonna feed through the side and kind of feed into that weight on top, kind of create a panel that we're gonna cut on the sides. So you can see the shape already that we kind of have here. I'm just gonna mimic that, tie into the top, and then we can come in and start our ball guideline and start to blend into what we started with. All right guys, so now we're gonna come in and start our ball guideline. I'm basically just gonna round from back here. We'll finish the back when we get to it, but I'm just gonna round my way up. Basically like an exaggerated line up around the ears. I like to still use my finger to pivot, and we'll just go from here up to the front, right in the middle, kind of like leave a half a C cup more or less. You guys see I get this natural round burst fade shape. And then we can clean that up, balled out underneath, come in with the shaver, get it down to skin, and we'll start our first step of the fade. All right, now we're gonna come in with the lever all the way open, and these are the Camo FX because I did put a taper blade on it. You know, I prefer taper blades. When I get those black MIM blades, I'm gonna go ahead and swap it out, but I do not have those yet, only on the clippers that they came on, so I'm not gonna rob my FXOnes for that. But you can see we're gonna make a nice clean open section, kind of right here where it rounds off, where the hair starts to get darker. We're gonna use just the corner of the clipper and come up and tie into our guideline. You guys see that guideline follows the same exact shape as the initial guideline that we did underneath. So we'll go ahead and work this in. Now we can close it up. We'll come in and start trying to take this bottom line out. I say trying because this is a taper blade. It doesn't cut as short. I don't know how those trimmers are gapped. You can see it looks like it's taking it out okay, but obviously depending on the clipper you're using and the blade that is on it, sometimes it will not take the bald line out. So I wasn't really sure what this was gonna do. It actually looks like it might be okay. But if it's not, we can come back with the trimmer and scoop that line out if there's any kind of a shadow left behind. But that's the first notch. Now we'll go to the second notch. We'll go up slightly higher. And you guys just want to pretend more or less that this section is broken down into five little sections, 5 lines. So whatever notch you're on is how high up you should be. So now we go to the third, we should be in the middle. And of course you can't see the bottom guideline anymore, but you guys should visualize. You can see where it's all the way skinned down here. But you guys should just visualize if you're at the top, you should be all the way open. If you're in the middle, you should be halfway open. And at the bottom, you should be all the way closed. And that's how you guys are gonna move through this section. Now I see a dark spot up here about where the 4th notch should be. So I go to the 4th notch, work it out. Same thing up here at the front. We just move through this section until we're happy with it, and then we can move on to the open one. All right guys, now we're gonna come in with the 1 all the way open, and you can see where the 3 stopped up here. So we can basically split this section in half. And again, we're following that same shape. We do have a line down here to follow. So it's gonna mimic that. Again, it's gonna get skinnier as we get to the back. We're gonna leave ourselves room to blend up into that length. Set a nice guideline, and I actually like to go ahead and take this next line out and then work my way back down. So we're just gonna set this guideline. Then we'll work our way down from the 3, and we'll just basically continue that down until this whole side looks good. Now this is a number 2, all the way closed. And I know that it's not gonna take this line all the way out between the open 1 and the 2. So I'm going about halfway up to where the number 3 is, knowing that the 1.5 is gonna come in and actually take that line all the way out. So if you guys just sit there and focus on that line, 1, you're not gonna get the line all the way out. And 2, when you come in with your next guard, you're just gonna cut the hair that you just cut to a 2 even shorter, and you're gonna run basically more risk of putting another line in. So you gotta go up enough to get that line out, but we also have to understand what our guards will give us. So you can see the 2 has blended into the 3, but we still have some lines here. So now we'll go to the 1.5 and get those lines out. Now this is a 1.5 all the way closed. On the Babyliss, that is the sweet spot. So the 1.5 is gonna take this line out between the 1 and the 2. Should be pretty easy because we've already lightened it up with the number 2 closed. And then we'll work our way down back to the 1 and then finally the half guard, and we should have this side looking nice. Now just to be safe, I'm gonna go with the 1 open and make sure that we tie into the 1.5. You can see there's still almost just a little bit of a line there, and sometimes depending on how harsh you put that line in, you will have to take it back out with whatever you put it in with. So that's why I'm just jumping straight to the open 1 to make sure that there's nothing left, and then we'll go ahead and close it up and start to work on that bottom line. Now we'll go ahead and close it up, and same thing here guys, if we work on only this line, it's not gonna come out. We need to go basically halfway into this section, leaving that bottom line for our 0 guard to take out. All right guys, so last but not least, this is the half guard. I'm starting with it halfway open. You guys should see it's gonna just magically take this last line out. So I get a lot of comments about the half guard. People have a hard time getting the line out, and if they do, then they just put another line in. So I will say the half guard does take some finesse. If you guys open it up, it almost won't cut hair. So you can come up way higher than really you're supposed to be with it open, and it's safer. And of course, if you are that person that struggles with it, I maybe wouldn't do that. But halfway open is really the sweet spot. You can see we just took that line out all the way around in that blend. And then you guys can open and close it if you want to, but really halfway open is gonna be what you're gonna need to get your blend together. Now you see we got a little bit of a shadow down here. Now I can close it if I need to and just polish up this bottom. But you can see we got a pretty decent blend going on. I'm gonna go ahead and move on. I'm gonna line up the C cup here, clean up the line down here at the bottom, and then when we're done with everything else, we'll come back and we'll do a little detail work and polish it up. All right guys, we're gonna do the same exact steps on this side. I'm gonna put the guards down below. You guys can follow along. And when we get to the top, I will get back with you guys and show you what we're gonna do. All right guys, so we want it basically tamed at the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is set myself up to come in and do some clipper work. So I'm just gonna go fingers to the head right here, cut this line in all the way across. Then when I'm all done and it's dry, I'll just come in with like a number 4 and tie into that. And then this is gonna be our guide at the bottom. We'll set a guide at the top and we will work our way up towards that guide. You guys will see here in a second. And we're basically just determining what we want our shortest length down here to be. And then we'll come up here. I'm gonna pull it straight out. It is a little long. So you see we got some short here. That's where I'm gonna stop. So we're just gonna cut that line in. And again, we'll follow that around. Now as it gets short here, we're just gonna go ahead and tie that in. So you can see this corner hanging off. Basically just tie it in. And again, this is our guide at the top. We started with the guide at the bottom, and I'll show you guys how to connect them here in a second. All right, so now what we're gonna do is just take a vertical section. I'm gonna take it down the middle, go ahead and comb this out of the way. Right next to it, about a comb's width, maybe a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. I'm gonna wet the hair a little bit more. And again, we cut our guide at the top, we cut our guide at the bottom. So now I'm just gonna grab this section, pull it out. You guys should see where we cut, right here. I'm just gonna aim down to that section. Obviously I can't grip all this hair at once. I'll cut down. Now we grab our next panel. Eventually down here at the bottom, you guys are gonna see the guide, and we will connect it to the line that we just cut. So you can see up here where we cut down. Again, you can't really see it, but it's falling out of my fingers right here. Boom. So now we just cut that line in, and we got it short at the bottom so we can tie into the clipper work at the bottom that we're gonna do. Now I'll just follow this over to the right and then back to the left. We'll move on to the top. All right, so if you guys watch the channel, you see that usually I use the DFS formula and I do the top first. And part of what I was brought on to teach with the DFS formula is really some more shop friendly, basically just showing that it can still be used in the shop. So I still use pieces of it. I don't always do the full system. If it's somebody that's, you know, got a recent haircut and I don't have to, sometimes I don't. But you guys can see if you have seen it before. Now we're basically gonna implement the DFS formula. We just started with clip work on the sides and we're still gonna basically do the same thing. So you guys can see where this ties in. Now all I have to do is come here. We're gonna basically kind of do our second part of the DFS formula and tie this into where that clipper work was. So again, you can customize this and do it however you want. He did tell me he wants it a little longer in the front. So just like normal, now I can pivot out and leave it longer in the front. So again, the formula is for you to move through hair. It is for you to customize a cut. And I'll be honest, I don't use the entire formula every time. I don't always section it off from the crown from the beginning, but you guys can see basically in doing it the way I did it, we still have our foundation that connected into the top, and now we'll take this up and take that peak off. We were able to pivot out, leave it longest in the front. So basically the same process, just kind of customized for this cut. So same as normal, guys, because we split it down the middle, it's gonna fall out on both sides. And then we just have to come through. I'm gonna point cut for some texture and take those peaks off in the middle. So we're still doing the DFS formula. We're just kind of customizing it, or like I said, I just kind of started with a clipper versus doing the fingers to the head, setting that foundation. So you guys can clipper over comb and set your foundation. There's really a lot of ways to customize this. And if you guys are super unfamiliar with the DFS formula and you wanna check it out, you guys can go to dfsformula.com. Lots of education on there. There's hours upon hours of content, but my code Sean15 will save you guys 15%. And there's a few different years. So you guys want to start with year 1, start learning the basics of it, how it works, what you're gonna do, how you're gonna section it. And then year 2, it kind of goes further with that. And then year 3, it really starts to get creative. And that's where you guys can really customize it and make it your own and do some super cool haircuts. All right, so you guys can see kind of where everything's tied together now that it is dry. So we're just gonna come from one side pretty much as low as possible. We're just gonna round the back. He kind of had it flipping out like mine is at the bottom. And I said, well, do you like it flipping out or you want it kind of tame? He's like, nah, kind of goes every direction. So I'd rather have it kind of tame. So we just softened it up so that it wasn't long enough to move around a lot with a number 4. Tied into that scissor work that I did. And you guys can see we get a nice clean line at the bottom. It still blends in, it doesn't look disconnected. It shouldn't move around a whole lot on him. And should stay pretty nice and neat and have this sharp round bottom that goes up into the burst fade on the sides. And that's one of my favorite things. You got a nice sharp C-cup that's a round shape, and then you got a nice round back and you got a nice burst fade on the side, a lot of complementary shapes going. And I think you get a really cool, nice looking finished products when you have all that in one haircut. All right, so we just talked last second, want to do a little line in the side. So I'm just gonna come off this corner, kind of up into the burst fade just a little bit. Man, guys, I ain't gonna lie to you. When you get models for YouTube videos, you don't ever know what their hair is gonna be like, what they're gonna want. I try to give people what they want, but also make a good video. And I ain't gonna lie, this cut turned out super sick. Like one of my favorites in a while. Here's a little trick for you guys. You got all this long hair next to that line. If I comb it down, I can come in with my shears and cut it off. A lot of trimmers have difficulty cutting that much hair. So you see I can come through and actually cut the length with my scissors. Now we can come back and detail it with the trimmer. All right guys, that is it for the cut. You can see we added that little part at the last minute. Burst fade on the sides, some texture on top. You can see the bottom nice and cleaned up and rounded out. I ain't gonna lie, this is one of my favorite YouTube haircuts I've done in a while. If you guys like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up, and I'm gonna link you guys to my favorite burst fade mullet, a little bit more mullet in the back. You guys wanna make sure you check that video out, and I'll catch you guys next time.